I've lived in Colombia for the past few years, and one thing has stood out to me, besides the fact that you can get a fresh squeezed juice on nearly every corner for less than a bottle of water in the US. Colombians, for the most part, don't get fat like Americans. I mean, look around. People here eat rice, arepas, and fried patacones every day. And yet you're far more likely to see a six-pack on a street vendor than in a US gym. Meanwhile, back in the land of the drive-thru, over 70% of Americans are considered overweight or obese. We've got everything supersized except our willpower. So what gives? Are Colombians secretly hitting the gym in the middle of the night? Are empanadas the new superfood? Is salsa dancing more effective than CrossFit? Today, we're breaking it all down. Lifestyle, food, habits, and that magical thing called walking places. This is why Colombians don't get fat like Americans. And no, it's not just genetics. Let's go. Before we dive in, I gotta give credit where it's due. This video was inspired by another Americano abroad, Nauf, short for Nick Alfieri, who did a brilliant comparison between Americans and Germans a year ago. I'm just bringing the salsa version. In Nick's video, he mentioned that the US is the land of extremes, and I 100% agree with him. We've got billionaires launching rockets into space and people going bankrupt because they broke their arm. We've got ultramarathoners who live off of kale and ketones, and folks who consider a 64-ounce soda just a drink. We're extremely rich, extremely poor, extremely fit, extremely fat. But Colombia lives in the middle. It's not a country of extremes. It's a country of rhythm, routine, and rice. You don't see as many bodybuilders or 600-pounders walking around here. You see just people, just like normal-sized people. In the US, we bounce between diet fads and binge eating, intermittent fasting, and midnight Taco Bell runs. Here in Colombia, people eat lunch, real lunch, like soup, rice, protein, and a juice. And then they go on with their lives like it's not a complicated relationship with food. It's a slower pace, a different mindset. It's not about extremes, it's about balance. And ironically, that may be the real secret sauce. So what's the difference between overweight, obese, and morbidly obese? Well, overweight is defined as having a body mass index, BMI, between 25 and 29.9, while obesity is defined as a BMI of 30 or higher. Take me, for instance. I'm 5'10". BMI says I should weigh between 130 and 174 pounds, and at 130, I definitely look anorexic. Overweight would be 175 to 209 pounds, and obese would be anything over 210 pounds, and I would be considered morbidly obese at anything 280 pounds or more. I can walk in Europe or Colombia all day and not see a morbidly obese person. Yet I can walk into any Walmart in the US and see no less than 5, and they're all probably on motorized shopping carts. And you can watch a few people of Walmart videos and you'll see their videos are saturated with this. No other country has a television show called My 600-Pound Life. I have some really close friends that would fall into this morbidly obese category that I absolutely love. And I wish they would care more about their health because I don't want anything to happen to them. And while they could live a very long life, it will almost certainly come at a lifestyle cost with health issues such as knee replacements, high blood pressure, diabetes, and so on. WorldObesity.org ranks the U.S. at number 10 in the world for obesity. And those 9 countries that are ahead of the U.S., all Pacific Island nations. No actual first world countries. And Germany is at number 80. A shout out to Nick. And Colombia at number 114. Now, overweight, a few extra pounds, some love handles. I currently fall into that category as I'm hanging out right now at 186 pounds. That's 11 pounds over my max BMI. But overweight like this is fairly common everywhere in the world. And I see it here in Colombia, but I just don't see huge people. BMI is really a simple calculation. BMI is basically your weight in kilograms divided by your height in meters squared. For example, my BMI would be 84.35 divided by 1.782 squared, or 3.1684. That comes out to 26.62, which says I'm overweight. And to be clear, BMI can vary from person to person. Not a lot, but marginally based on things like muscle versus fat, bone density, gender, age, and ethnicity. So two people with the same height and weight could have radically different body compositions, one jacked and one a little jiggly. A true BMI test would be taken in a hydrostatic weighing, which is one of the most accurate methods of body composition analysis. World Population Review shows the U.S. at number 4 in the world for diabetes. Colombia is at number 28. Wikipedia shows the U.S. at number 4 in the world for cancer and Colombia at number 80. Approximately 5.5% of U.S. adults have a reported diagnosis of heart disease. However, when considering all types of cardiovascular diseases, nearly half, 48%, of all Americans have some form of it, including heart disease, stroke, and high blood pressure, with Colombia showing numbers about 25% less. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in the U.S. The Centers for Disease Control state that 90% of heart disease is preventable through healthier diet, regular exercise, and not smoking. And approximately 790,000 knee replacements are performed annually in the United States. 64% of these are for obese or morbidly obese people. Obese people are 8 times more likely to require a knee replacement than those with a BMI under 30. For individuals with a BMI over 35, the likelihood increases to 28 times. Now let's talk lifestyles. One of the biggest differences between Colombia and the U.S. is how much movement is built into everyday life here. In Colombia, people walk a lot. Not because it's trendy, because that's just how you get places. You walk to Carulla or Éxito for groceries, to the local vegetable market, the corner store. You walk to the bus. You walk uphill both ways because you live in Bogota, Medellin, Cali, or Bucaramanga, and your neighborhood was designed by a mountain goat. Hey, we're literally on the Andes Mountains. In the U.S., we have cars because almost every city wasn't designed with walking in mind. I started thinking about this and I looked back at every place I've ever lived in the U.S. throughout my life. And it was impossible for me to walk to a grocery store or honestly any store. A car is pretty much 100% necessary in almost every city in the U.S. In the U.S., 92% of households own at least one vehicle. There are just under 19 million motor vehicles registered in Colombia, and with a population of 50 million, that equates to less than 38% ownership. And just like Nick mentioned that people use bicycles regularly in Germany, that's the case here in Colombia too. There's a ridiculous amount of bike lanes, and in Bogota on Sundays, they close some streets from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. only for bicycles, and you'll see thousands of bicyclers just enjoying the day. And parks are everywhere, and they're occupied by lots of people walking their dogs, playing some sport, or just walking. All ages, young kids, young adults, middle age, and even the elderly. Here, movement is life. It's default. Even the elderly abuelas with canes somehow beat me to the bakery every morning. And walking here isn't just for errands, it's social. Amelia and JP talked about how Latin people will walk 4 or 5 people side by side down the sidewalk talking to each other. They go to get coffee together or go to a restaurant, but they do it via their legs. La caminata is the Colombian version of therapy. Grab a juice, walk with a friend, solve your life problems on the sidewalk. It's a vibe. Back in the States, walking feels like a punishment for when your Uber cancels. It's not a workout here. It's just Tuesday. So when you look at how Colombians integrate movement into their everyday life, not as a chore, but as a way of being, it starts to make sense why they don't struggle with obesity on the same scales as Americans do. Okay, now let's talk food. Because if you're thinking Colombians must eat super healthy, let me stop you right there. These people eat more carbs in one meal than a keto dieter has nightmares about. And yet, they stay surprisingly fit. If you don't know what patacones are, they're mashed up plantains that are fried, and they are full of carbs. Then they also eat lots of rice. That's starch and carbs. They eat lots of beans, more carbs. And then there is the arepa, the Colombians' version of American cornbread, just not as sweet. And of course, my favorite of the arepas, the arepa con huevo, a deep-fried arepa with an egg inside. Delicious. Here's the trick. It's not about what they eat. It's about how they eat it. Most Colombians still eat real food that was cooked by a human being, probably using their grandma's recipe. It's not pumped full of preservatives, fake flavors, ingredients you can't pronounce, or some lab-engineered blend of nacho cheese and regret. And that arepa con huevo I mentioned, it's literally ground up corn, a touch of salt, and an egg. Simple ingredients. In the US, we lean on frozen meals, DoorDash, and processed snacks with ingredients lists that look like pharmaceutical labels. In Colombia, lunch is sacred. It's the main meal of the day, a soup to start, a plate with meat, rice, beans, fried patacones, a little salad, and some fresh squeezed fruit juice. No soda, no giant dessert, just a balanced, filling meal. And here's the deal. Their fresh squeezed juice probably has the same calories as a soda. But all calories aren't created equal. Your body was engineered to process foods it instinctively knows about. Vegetables, fruits, meats, things you can pull off of a plant or tree, or you can hunt. It didn't get the memo on aspartame, sucralose, monosodium glutamate, and high fructose corn syrup. So which is better, 100 calories of fresh squeezed orange juice or 100 calories of chicken nuggets? They're the same calories, but they're certainly not equal. And that soda that you get in the US is probably 32 ounces, while the juice in Colombia is somewhere between 8 and 12 ounces. When you go to a restaurant in Colombia, their large is typically still smaller than a small in the US, and the same with coffee. The Wikipedia page for the 7-Eleven Big Gulp is a short read, but interesting, talking about how Coca-Cola pushed them to 32-ounce cups, then to 44 ounces, and then to 50 and 64 ounces, and then even a 128-ounce Teen Gulp option, the largest fountain drink offering in the world. And when Colombians want something sweet, they don't reach for a candy bar. They reach for a juice or a piece of fresh fruit, usually from actual fruit, and shockingly cheap. Compare that to the US, where you pay $8 for an organic green juice that tastes like blended lawn clippings. In Nick's video, he mentions that his cousin visited him in Germany and went to a bakery and ordered a pastry called a Korktasche that he thought tasted like a diet donut because it wasn't as sweet as he was used to in the US. The same is true here in Colombia. Whenever I have made a US dessert like key lime pie, brownies, or chocolate chip cookies here in Bogota for Colombian friends, they all think it's too sweet. Or if I bring a prepackaged sweet from the US to Colombia in my suitcase, my Colombian friends make comments that it's good, but way too sweet. Desserts in bakeries and pastry shops here are nowhere near as sweet as in the US. There's also a wild difference in food quality. American versions of the same product often have more sugar, more chemicals, and more stuff you can't pronounce. Oh, and speaking of sugar, let's talk high fructose corn syrup. That American classic. Cheap, addictive, and in everything. In Colombia, not a thing. They use real sugar, mostly from cane, which they call panela, and sometimes fruit. Imagine a dessert that doesn't give you diabetes and a dopamine crash. I know it's weird, and that reminds me, they have something called arequipe that is in many of their desserts. Arequipe is also sometimes referred to as dulce de leche. It looks like caramel, but it's not. While they share similarities, they also have distinct characteristics that set them apart. Arequipe is made by slowly heating sweetened milk until it thickens and darkens, while caramel is made by heating sugar until it caramelizes. Arequipe has a richer, creamier, and less intensely sweet flavor compared to traditional caramel, which can sometimes also be a little bitter. Because arequipe is typically thicker and creamier, it can be used as a spread or filling, while caramel is often thinner and more syrupy. And back to that all calories aren't created equal. Pure milk with some sugar or pure sugar. So no, Colombians aren't counting macros. They're not reading diet books. They're just eating simple food made by real people in normal human portions. And that's probably doing more for their waistlines than all the weight loss pills in the US combined. All right, let's talk about what's really in your food. Because while Colombians are busy eating fried cheese balls with actual cheese in them, Americans are out here eating salad dressing and ice cream that contain propylene glycol, aka antifreeze. Yeah, you heard that right. American cheese slices, while it does contain a bit of calcium and protein and has an incredibly long shelf life, is not really cheese. Go for the cheddar at least. Take the same brand of ketchup. The US version, high fructose corn syrup, modified cornstarch, and natural flavors, which, fun fact, are often anything but natural. The Colombian version, tomatoes, sugar, vinegar, salt. Boom, done. It's like the US version was written by a chemist, the Colombian one was written by someone's grandmother. There are also a lot of convenience items we have in the US, things like chicken broth that you can buy in a box. It doesn't exist in Colombia. They save the bones from the chicken and boil them to make their own homemade chicken broth. They know every ingredient in theirs because they made it. It doesn't have weird ingredients that you can't pronounce or artificial flavors. I make my own now after living here, and it's really easy. Mike from Pro Home Cooks has a few videos on how he makes his own, and Joshua Weissman has a video too. Definitely worth watching. The links are in the description. And in addition to it being healthier, you can save money by making your own, even if the brand is the same. The Colombian version is often simpler and cleaner, just as Nick showed comparison labels from the US and Germany for things as simple as Quaker oats. 24 ingredients in the US version and only 5 in the German version. Why? Because Colombia, like most countries outside the US, doesn't allow half the sketchy additives that the FDA lets slide through like it's a frat party. You can thank lobbyists for the food industry for this. High fructose corn syrup has been proven to be addictive. FDA might as well stand for one of these. I'm curious. Let me know in the comments which one is your favorite. And have you ever seen those health buzzwords on American food? Made with whole grains, good source of vitamin D, now with 33% less asbestos. Okay, I made up that last one, I think. Here in Colombia, food is made with ingredients, not chemists and marketing teams. And while it's not perfect here, yeah, there are processed foods and sugary drinks. The volume and intensity of additives just doesn't come close. Even the candy here seems more innocent. In the US, we've got Skittles under lawsuit for allegedly containing titanium dioxide. In Colombia, you get a tamarind ball rolled in sugar, nature's Sour Patch Kid. So yeah, Colombians might fry their food, they might love arequipe like it's their national treasure, but at least they're not washing it down with a chemical cocktail disguised as fruit punch. And that, my friend, might be why they're winning the waistline war. In the US, fast food isn't food. It's a lifestyle. It's there for breakfast, lunch, dinner, fourth meal, and emotional support. It's quick, it's cheap, and it's everywhere. We literally designed our cities so that you don't have to leave your car to eat 2,000 calories. You just roll down your window and absorb it. Colombia has fast food too, but it looks a little different. Instead of a drive-thru, you have to walk into the restaurant to order your food. She's not serving you 10-piece chicken nuggets with 3 dipping sauces. She's giving you one fresh empanada for a couple thousand pesos, and you walk away happy, not bloated. Even the chains here are toned down. Colombian McDonald's, smaller portions, less sugar, less salt, and if you order a soda, it comes in a cup, not a paint bucket. Let's talk portion sizes. In the US, we don't serve food, we serve challenges. Finish this platter and win a t-shirt and a trip to the ICU. In Colombia, portions are normal. You get one plate, it fits on the tray, you leave satisfied, not immobilized. In the US, a bag of chips comes in a family size and a party size. Bags of chips are significantly smaller in Colombia. When I first came to Colombia, I was asked if I thought Colombia food or US food was more delicious. I told them US food was more delicious, and they gasped, and I told them I had proof. And I'm sure some of you will balk at what I'm about to say because it doesn't seem politically correct. But it's true. I told them we're fatter, and that has to mean our food tastes better. The thing is, the U.S. is really good at making food taste really good, albeit with sugars, additives, and other chemicals. And I have to be honest, I love the 100 flavors of potato chips we have, the 100 different salad dressings you can buy, the ridiculous quantity of options for pasta sauce. It's actually incredible. And while some of those salad dressings and most of those pasta sauces are actually pretty safe, thank you, Paul Newman, other countries typically don't have nearly as many options as us. Did you know that Oreo has had 85 different flavors? There's a Wikipedia page that lists all of these flavors. In Colombia, Oreo is here too, but only with the original Oreo flavor and a chocolate option. And they're sold in a single tube with 6 cookies or 15 cookies, or a package of 12 4-packs versus the US party size. And it's just one massive pack, and you can keep grabbing another one until they're all gone. Here, people don't count calories because they're not force-fed 2,000 of them in a single meal. In the States, even salads come with a hidden agenda. Some of our salad dressings are loaded with so much sugar they should have been a waffle or pancake topping. Honey mustard? Delicious, but definitely not healthy. And let's not forget, the US didn't just invent fast food, it weaponized convenience. DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, you don't have to walk 10 feet to order 6 tacos, a milkshake, and a cookie the size of a Frisbee. In Colombia, sure, delivery exists. We have Rappi, which is way better than the US delivery options, but I'll do another video on them. But you're more likely to just walk down the street, grab what you want, and maybe burn a few calories on the way. In Colombia, food gets you off the couch. In the US, it comes to the couch and sits down next to you. So yeah, both countries have fast food, but only one of them acts like it's a food group. And that difference, it shows up on the scale. Here's the thing. Staying healthy isn't just about willpower or portion control. It's also about what your city encourages you to do. And Colombian cities, they practically force you to move your body. I've walked more steps just trying to find a working ATM here than I used to walk in a week in the US. American cities are designed around the car. Everything is big, far apart, and wrapped in asphalt. Need groceries? Car. Coffee? Car. Going to the gym? Yeah, we drive to exercise. But Colombian cities, they were designed more for people than parking spots. In most Colombian neighborhoods, everything you need is within walking distance. Bakery, pharmacy, fruit stand, that guy who sells USB cables next to the guy selling avocados, all right there. And walking isn't a special event, it's just part of the daily rhythm. And let's talk public transit. It may not be luxury, you won't find velvet seats or mood lighting on the Transmilenio, but it gets people moving. You walk to the station, you stand during the ride, you walk again after. Boom, casual cardio, no gym required. Meanwhile, in the US, public transit is often seen as a last resort, if it even exists. We've built entire towns where the sidewalks just end, or there simply isn't one. Like the city planner got bored halfway through and said, just give them a Walmart. In Colombia, the streets are alive. There's music, food, people yelling about avocados. Even errands are exercise. You walk, you weave through crowds, you dodge motorcycles and taxis like it's a Frogger game. And whether you're rich or poor, you're still walking. Because the infrastructure here, while chaotic, actually keeps people on their feet. So while Americans are stuck in traffic, Colombians are getting their steps in, buying eggs, walking to work, walking home. Cities shape habits, and in Colombia, the city keeps you moving, even if you weren't planning on it. Let's talk about how each culture sees fitness, and bodies in general. In the US, we make a New Year's resolution and sign up for a gym membership in January, and within 2 weeks, we've stopped going. Colombia has plenty of gyms too, and they're busy. My gym, I have to go at 5 a.m. in the morning when they open because while it's really a large gym, by around 6 a.m. it's full of people, really too many for my taste. And when it comes to body image, here's where it gets interesting. In Colombia, there's still a strong preference for being thin, but it's not about six-pack abs or 2% body fat. It's more about looking put together, clean, healthy, like you actually walked somewhere today. Colombians tend to dress nice. Most guys wear nice casual to dressy shoes along with a button-up shirt, and women tend to dress equally as nice. The Colombian women tend to wear tighter clothes to show off their figures. They're proud of them. And when I'm flying in Colombia versus the US, Colombians dress nicely for the flight, whereas Americans are more likely to wear baggy sweatpants and look like a slob. Here, beauty standards are real, especially for women, but they're often more attainable. Sofia Vergara and Shakira are Colombian, and they're a decent representation. Now, before you go thinking Colombians are all fitness models who survive on fruit and salsa dancing, let's keep it real. Colombia isn't perfect. The waistlines are creeping up, and the culprits, they look very familiar. Fast food chains are expanding. Delivery apps like Rappi are booming, and processed foods are catching on, especially with younger generations and in big cities. Gen Z just swapped it for a caramel frappe with whipped cream and regret. Colombia's obesity rate has been climbing steadily over the past 2 decades. Packaged snacks are more common, screen time is up, movement is down. Sound familiar? Like much of the world, Colombia is importing not just products, but habits. And with globalization comes globalization-sized portions. And they look up to the United States as if we're their big brother or sister that they idolize. Now look, I'm not judging. I love a good Colombian pastry. But as delivery becomes easier, life gets more digital and work becomes more sedentary. The lifestyle that kept Colombians healthy for decades, it's starting to slip. Even paradise can get a belly if you give it enough fried food and free Wi-Fi. But here's the good news. The infrastructure, culture, and habits are still here. People still walk, still cook, still dance. Colombia's not doomed, not by a long shot. But the question is, can they hold on to that balance? So while Colombians may not get fat like Americans, they're not immune. The difference is they still have a shot at keeping movement, food, and joy at the heart of everyday life. And maybe we can learn something from that before our food comes shrink-wrapped with a Netflix login. So why don't Colombians get fat like Americans? Well, it's not magic. It's not DNA. And it's definitely not because they eat less rice, because they don't. It's how they live. They walk more. They cook more. They eat real food that hasn't been chemically engineered in a lab in New Jersey. And they treat movement like a natural part of life, not a punishment for eating dessert. Colombia isn't perfect, but it is a country where the default lifestyle still leans towards health. Not because it's trendy, but because it's normal. In the US, we often live in extremes. All gym, no chill, or all chill, no gym. Meal preps or McNuggets, before and after photos that forget to show the during. But here, it's about balance, and maybe that's what we're really missing. So maybe the lesson isn't move to Colombia and eat empanadas every day, although tempting. Maybe it's just this: walk more, stress less, eat things your grandma would recognize. If you like this video and want more life abroad, hit that subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, and drop a comment below. What's something your country does better than the US when it comes to health or food? And hey, next time you're feeling sluggish, don't grab a protein shake. Grab a friend and go for a walk. And hey, if you're watching this and you're obese, nothing I said was meant to offend you. In the US, we've gotten weak. Our feelings get hurt way too easy now, which is why we always hear about a cancel culture, and we hear things such as fat shaming. Being fat, obese, whatever you want to call it, is unhealthy. And if you fall into this category, I want you to make a challenge to yourself that you'll get healthy. Obesity does major damage to your body as you age. Dr. Weil has often expressed that the things you do to your body now won't be apparent for many years to come. Your pancreas wasn't meant to handle the quantity of weight or the sugar that you're feeding it. Your knees weren't meant to handle that much weight either. Make this a challenge to yourself to lose weight and get healthy. I diet a couple of times a year because, quite honestly, I love food, probably way too much. I typically do an Atkins-style low-carb diet where I keep my carbs below 20 grams for the duration of the diet. But I'm not a doctor. Consult with a doctor or a dietitian and find a diet that works for you. You can do this. And this is the Americano. Hasta la próxima. The Americano.